What's up, bro? I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in, who's watching this video, both behind the wall and in the free world. I got Christopher Willars with me, and just a little bit of backstory. You and I connected around the time where you had made a post about the California wildfires, excuse me. And around that same time, Asheville had experienced Hurricane Helene. So the recovery efforts were just about to get off the ground. And I remember in your post, you were highlighting the fact that California was using people who are incarcerated on their, I don't know if they call it the bridge program. I know in North Carolina, they call it the bridge program. And these individuals are fighting fires, but at the same time, when they got out of incarceration, they couldn't get a job with the same organization that they had been working with while in prison. So we connected then. We've been chopping it up. I've seen a lot of your content. You use humor and levity to convey some pretty deep messages about what it is like inside the prisons in America. So I'll let you take it from there. I can't wait to hear your story.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for supporting the content. And yeah, we connected back then. And I was speaking about the fires. And ironically, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that post, my own home burned down in a
Oh my
totally different
God.
state. Yeah. So I work out of
Yeah.
California. I live in Georgia.
Okay.
But just the prelude, right? My name is
Mhm.
Christopher Willers, as he said. I am a social content creator, storyteller, motivational speaker, and I get to travel the country and tell the story of how in 2003 I was sentenced to 144 years in prison for robbery that involved a BB gun, and nobody was physically harmed. And might I add, I was the driver. I never even touched the BB gun.
Wow.
So last month alone, and on average, my platform through social media globally reaches about 20 million people.
That's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, thank you. It's all God, and I'm not supposed to be here, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. But I'm also going to talk about how you can be successful through the painful lessons that you learn.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it.
So walk me through you're sentenced to over 100 years in prison. I know a little bit about my personal story. Um, I was in the military, did two back-to-back tours, combat tours in Iraq, came home, got myself into a ton of trouble, was sitting in the county jail facing an open count of murder. I'm naive to the system. The first plea they offered me was life. And I know right then I realized these people weren't playing. So walk me through the sentencing of a number that, how do you even wrap your head around a number like that?
Um, I was 19 years old,
Mm,
and like I spoke about, the crime was I drove my cousin, two of his friends, to a restaurant, and they
mhm.
stuck the place up with a BB. It wasn't even real, right?
Right.
And that's why I agreed that night. And I always put the accountability on me. I made the decision. I
Facts.
was young, I was naive, but I still decided to get in the truck and drive them there.
Right.
But the understanding for me was it wasn't a real weapon. Nobody could get physically harmed. They weren't going to do
Right.
nothing. If we do get caught, I'm the driver. I've never been
Right.
in trouble.
So you thought.
So I thought
Right.
we went. We went that night. We did what we did, and I can get into all that. But at the end of the day, I found myself now, maybe 3 months later after that incident, having
Mhm.
to turn myself into law enforcement because my cousin, his friends had already got locked up,
Right.
and somebody was talking, and
Imagine
somebody,
that.
imagine that, right? We could talk about that.
Yeah.
And I went from somebody that, in the course of one night, also, coming out of the military, United States Air Force, enlisted at 17 during the 9/11, all that,
Yeah.
was still having problems like fighting, but never really been in like real trouble, right?
Right.
Now I'm sitting in here and I'm facing 6 life sentences.
Ooh.
And yeah, 6 life sentences because if anybody's watching this, if you're behind the wall, if you're in the streets and you're still playing with fire and throwing rocks at prison, what I want to tell you, especially with the robbery game and all that, they don't get you for the building. They get you for the number of individuals that were inside of the building when the incident
Facts.
occurred. So if
Facts.
there's 5 people in there and you didn't go in, depending on the state, you could be like me. You didn't even have to touch the weapon, go in there,
Right.
and you got the same charges they do. because
Right.
in the Commonwealth of Virginia where I was at, there was no accessory charge.
Right.
So I wanted to give that backdrop, and then I wanted to speak to fast forwarding. I found myself in the bullpen with my court date had got pushed up. I had a public
Right.
defender who's since been disbarred. Go figure.
Imagine that.
Yeah, he used to come to the jail smelling like liquor. But I was young. Never mind.
Right.
He told me like 30 minutes before I was supposed to go in front of the judge, the best I can do is give you 35 to 54 years to do. That's what they're offering.
That's the
They
best he
said
could do.
that's the best he can do. And I always speak about this because what I need parents to know, and anybody that and young people, whatever, is 99% of the young people in the courtroom, when their public defender says that to them, they accept that.
Right.
They because it's too much going on. It's too much.
Right.
And but fortunately, I told my parent, what I call him, a prosecutor, because he might have been. I told my public defender, I said, no, I can't do that.
Right.
And he looked at me, and now I know he's probably in shock because they're used to a certain amount of people just going through the system.
Right.
I challenged him right there, my own legal defense, and his response was, well, I give you 2 minutes to figure out something for me to tell them to make them happy. Good luck.
To make them happy. And he said, good luck.
Good luck. Because he was mad that I didn't want to take the 35 years to 54 because they could have gave me whatever.
Right.
So in about 2 minutes, 120 seconds as a 19-year-old young man, no harm and disrespect to my young people. But man, I didn't know anything at 19. Right. I had to figure out how much life I felt like I could survive, how many years in prison, and how much of that number they would be good with.
Right. That's a lot for a 19-year-old. That's a whole, and also to go back to something that you just said, what 19-year-old really knows anything?
What 19-year, when there's no, you don't, first and foremost, the majority of people that find themselves in the system have never been in the system before.
Facts.
And then you put a young person that has no life experience on top of that, you know? It's a very scary situation now from the outside looking in, because I'm, as an advocate now and somebody that works with young people that are going into the court system, unfortunately, man, we're catching them and we're alerting them, but not everybody's getting that assistance. Not everybody knows that they can challenge certain things, but it's very scary, man.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Not to mention, I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it's somewhere like 85% of cases end in plea bargains.
Yeah, man.
It's insane.
But here's the thing that's even more insane. I wasn't even offered a plea.
Wow.
So yeah, I need anybody that's watching this to know that whether you were the number one defendant or the whatever, the one that they wanted, I was the driver. But out of all my co-defendants, because I had 3, I was the only one not offered a plea, because I was given an opportunity to go home the first day. When I turned myself in, I turned it down.
Right, because you didn't talk.
I didn't talk. And they told me, the detectives told me, you take your opportunity to go home now, go eat dinner with your mom, all that tonight, or we're going to make sure you get a life sentence. Yeah. And I found myself in the courtroom, not only being asked the question by somebody that's supposed to defend me, how much time I feel like I should do, but also being in a situation where I didn't have a plea or a guarantee. So you're walking out into the courtroom, and if you can envision anybody watching this, hopefully you've never been in my situation. All I had was God and my mother. That was it.
Right.
I couldn't see anything else in that courtroom. Right. And everything drowned out. And I could hear my heartbeat because I was just waiting while the judge is giving his speech, and I'm just waiting to see if they're going to give me a life sentence and I'm never going home again, because I wanted to take that ride that night.
That's a lot. How much time did you end up? What was your response to your public defender?
I told my public defender, I said, hey, I'll do 20 years. I said, I'm 19, getting ready to turn 20. I want to be home before I'm 40.
Right.
To somebody that's never been in that situation, you're probably thinking to yourself, like, yo, this dude is crazy. Like, why would you offer 20 years of your life in prison?
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, man. I was in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Hmm.
I was in Fredericksburg or Stafford, wherever in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
No harm and disrespect. And I was watching people that look like me with some tan to their skin or whatever,
Right.
going into the courtroom with a robbery charge, and they was coming out with life sentences plus.
God. Yeah, that's
So
insane.
this was a Hail Mary attempt, and even then, I mean, who am I? I'm a 19. There's no guarantee
Right,
that
right.
except what I throw out there, but they did. And maybe I should have said less. Maybe if I said 10,
I don't
but
know if they
hey,
would have gone for 10. I don't know about that. Maybe,
10.
who knows?
But the reality is, same case, different state, different country. I might
Right.
only got two, and
That's a fact.
yeah,
That's a fact. And I'm glad that from the very beginning of our conversation, you're speaking to the young people who still might be in the streets or still might want to fantasize about a lifestyle that some of these musicians have never lived. And I think it's really important for them to at least hear it from somebody who's been there, because the reality is when you in that courtroom, is first of all, it's very few people with you. Second of all, it's terrifying. And third of all, these people really don't care about you. When I say these people, I mean the system. They really
you're
don't
on a
care.
the minute
Right.
to my young people, the minute you're in the custody of the state, your mother can't protect you no more.
That's a
So
fact.
all my gangsters out there, let me tell you, I'm 41. I'm not a gangster no more. I'm old. I'm washed up, right? But my
No,
mother,
you're not.
whatever, right? My mother is in the room over because she's old. She moved down here, right? I
That's
call
what's
for
up.
my mother now
Uh-huh.
because I can. But
Mhm.
when you're in prison, in jail, you can't call for your mother. You can't
That's a
call for
fact.
your father. You can't. There's nobody. You're in no man's land. And
Literally.
yeah, that's it.
So
You're at the mercy.
now, no, go ahead. You say you're at the
No,
mercy.
yeah, you're at the mercy of them. That's it, man.
That's a fact. So now you're sitting, you got your time, and now you find yourself in the prison system, like the big boy prison system, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was the shift that happened, or what was the mentality? How do you wrap yourself around that? Because I'm gonna be honest, bro, like I work in reentry and I deal with individuals coming home from prison all the time, and you don't seem like you've done 20 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So to walk me through that, like you're in prison, and I know in a lot of your content, like you play the old head that's like giving the game. So let's talk to me. You on the yard now. What's up?
So first, I want to say, if you go to some of my social media, there's a post that's like posted at like the top right something on my
Mhm.
TikTok, whatever specifically, and it's a video of me walking out of prison after 17 years.
Mhm.
And if you watch that video, I'm all messed up, y'all. This is
Yeah.
not, the person that's talking now is like totally complete opposite of the person that walked out of prison in 2020, right before the pandemic, which is a whole nother part of the
Wow.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, do 17 years and walk into the pandemic before it gets started, and tell me how you feel after.
Then you get locked down again. Oh my
Bro,
goodness. That is
I'm
crazy.
like, did I survive 17 years to walk into the end of the world? But anyways, we're still here. We're alive, so we could tell the story. Grateful, and but it was a tragic time, and we could touch on
Yeah.
it. But in prison, first and foremost, I was a psychopath, man.
Oh, word.
Um, yeah, because I was never like I was never a street dude.
Yeah.
You will never hear me on any social media talking about before I would no.
Yeah.
No. I could fight. I could
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
I grew up around my father and four uncles and
Hmm.
brother-in-laws, and I came up in a masculine environment,
Right.
Mexican, black, all that, boom. Um, and I was also intelligent. I was in the
Mm.
United States Air Force, and you got to be able to score pretty high on the ASVAB to get in there,
That's a fact. That's a fact.
right? And this isn't a knock to my brothers that are incarcerated or my sisters, but the level of intelligence isn't high in that environment. There are some brilliant, amazing, wise, wonderful people in there, but
Mhm.
unfortunately the reason a lot of people end up incarcerated is because there's a lower level of education, blah 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 blah.
It's a fact.
I knew in prison that if I can observe and
Hmm.
understand people in the politics, I could start to manipulate the environment. So my
Mm-hmm.
first part of me doing prison time, I was a young wild dude. I was rebellious, but I was strategically manipulating the environment. I was getting working. I was gangbanging. I
Mm-hmm.
got with a car. I did everything you're probably not supposed to do. But
Right.
that's because the first part of my bid, I was reacting
Right.
to the situation. But then there was a time about halfway through, I lost my grandmother and my father. And I had
Sorry to
lost
hear
some
that.
homeboys on the yard before then, and it hit me right. But you're in the middle of war, and but when your family, you don't get to say goodbye, and certain things
Right.
started to hit me. And I had individuals always, no matter how I was moving on the inside, that believed in me. I had the old heads. I had
Right.
the counselors, the unit managers, that just always gave me chances. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually I started to embrace the opportunities that were brought to me, because there are programs and there are different positive things that you can do in prison.
Right.
Um, but you got to want to do it.
That's a
And when I
fact.
made, when I made the decision, things started to shift. And my prison sentence was different than a lot. I
Right.
got some crazy stories about, I was dating a female staff member for 6 years, and that sounds cool to some people, but never mind that. Let's talk about how I was able to do lectures for colleges that were coming in while I was
That's
incarcerated.
what's up.
You know what
That's
I'm
what's
saying?
up.
Like, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and I just carried that out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the struggles that I brought home with me through, mental health and stuff like that,
Right.
I still never let go of that feeling of doing positive in a negative environment and starting to make that change and seeing the results and getting the support. And
Right.
that's what's kind of guided me through.
So I want to touch on a couple of things that you said. Um, so I think because I had a really similar experience in prison. Um, I got locked up when I was 21, 12 and a half year sentence. And in the beginning of my prison sentence, I've always kind of been a sponge for information. And I kind of always believed in like personal development. I've believed in having a fundamental understanding. I'm a concepts guy. If you put me in a new environment, I'm gonna sit back, I'm gonna pay attention, and I'm gonna see what's going on. And I feel like that's A, survival, and B, um, kind of natural. Now, the part about manipulating the environment, I kind of attribute that to, and maybe I'm wrong, to like childhood mischief, for lack of a better term, or maybe a way to thumb our nose at the system, like, oh, you put me here, but you can't control everything that I do. And then it becomes a cat and mouse game. And that's like the fastest way to pass your time in the beginning. I I I wanna ask about the moment when you actually allowed that to sink in, because just like you, I had people from the very beginning, from day one, and let's just be clear, when they close that door behind you and you're locked inside of a small space with tons of steel and concrete between you and the free world, I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but the first thing that I was thinking of is, if this place catches on fire, they're gonna leave us in here.
Oh
And
man.
and falling asleep with that on my mind was almost impossible. So my mind
Yeah.
was constantly running. But there came a point in time where it just wasn't worth the risk anymore. So I
Mhm.
wonder if you had a similar experience where, yeah, the whole time that you're still doing your thing, you still shooking and jiving, like you're hearing it, but it's really not sinking in because maybe you were still climbing before you started coming down on your bid. What was that for you?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say that I fed into the negative height, and you were spot on. It was survival, but then it was like, oh, I could do this. I could
Right,
get the CEO to let me and my people out to do the trade so we could eat more. Then
right,
it was, I can holler at short so I can get us some jobs. And when I say manipulating, I don't mean like maybe the some way some people think about getting work and all that. No, I just mean like,
right.
if I could get me and my people in the door, or I could just get us in a better situation to make sure we were eating that night,
100%.
or even just keeping us safe,
Right.
whatever it was. Because I was in one of those situations where I don't want to use the word shot caller, but I had responsibilities of a lot of people around me, you know?
100%.
Um,
And I get that vibe from you.
yeah, man. And I think I grew up in there, and you spoke a little bit about the OG and all this. And the real truth behind that content is I was in the system for so long, 17 years, that I came in as a little bro.
Right.
Then I was in there. I put in enough work, had enough respect. I got a little bit older. I was big bro. And then next thing you know, I was
That's right.
right?
You unk.
By like 30. By
And then
like
you
30.
OG.
And
Yeah.
then look, by 33, 34, and I didn't go
Mhm.
home till about 36, 30, almost 37. They
Yeah.
were calling me OG.
That's what's up.
So through the content, it's actually showing you the different layers of who I was, from the
Yeah.
naive to the getting ready to put in work, da da da.
Mhm.
And you're gonna see some other things about growth
Mhm.
and but it's really telling the story, man, because it's been a heck of a journey. It's been a heck
Oh,
of a journey.
I can't even imagine. And like the content is captivating. I hope everybody goes and checks it out. What were some of the lessons that you were learning and passing on to the people that were basically looking to you for leadership or looking to you for guidance, or you were setting an example? What were some of those lessons?
Yeah, so I went from somebody that was running with a car, running a yard,
Mhm.
on two different prisons, two different levels, both max levels.
Mhm.
My gang points were so high that if something happened on one institution, they would
They're
lock me
coming
up
to
on
you.
another, right?
That's insane.
And I'll tell anybody that's watching this, yo, I was never like this evil dude. Like I was like the most positive,
Mhm.
upstanding member of
Happy.
a car you would
Yeah.
ever want to meet,
Yeah.
right? But that wasn't me, man. You
Right.
know? And I think I grew up and I came to realization, and some of the lessons I learned was that you can't get your time back.
That's a fact.
Like that's the most valuable thing. And I had the opportunity to work on the wing where they had some lifers,
Mm.
and I swept the floors, I wiped the walls, I served the trays, I delivered the books, and I had conversations with men that knew when their life was going to end.
Wow.
And when you have conversations like that, they haunt you. To this day, I can remember the lessons that were taught to me that were poured out with urgency because these men knew they would never go back into the world again.
Mm.
And there were a couple brothers, yo, I promised. They're like, yo, you got a chance with tears in their eyes, bro. Nothing soft about these guys. Not
Right,
saying they
right,
guilty, none of that, but just saying one man to a younger man saying, hey, you got a chance to escape.
right.
Pay attention to how you're utilizing and using your time. And that's what I did. And
Mhm.
anytime I talk to my young people, I say, you got plenty of time on the clock. How are we going to
Right,
use it?
right.
And that was the lesson I pushed with the homies in there, with the people in there. That was what I continue to push out here. And also something that don't allow anybody to be smarter than you. And people thrown off by that. I'm not saying people won't be smarter than you.
Right.
He was probably smarter than me, but I'm just
I
saying,
don't know about that.
always. Well, I don't know, but always be the one that's seeking knowledge.
Be
You know,
teachable. Yeah.
sit, man, be teachable, seek knowledge, and man, pursue you,
Right.
because inside of you if what you're doing is in alignment with you. You feel it. It's
That's a
not a
fact.
spirituality thing. It's not a you believe in it. No, you feel it. You got a gut instinct. When you riding
Yeah.
with your homies or you getting ready to do this, it don't feel right. You're not supposed to be doing that.
That's a
When you
fact.
when you when you help the old lady across the street, that feels good. Follow that internal compass and you'll be
Yeah.
fine. Challenge
Man,
yourself.
you just dropped some jewels. And some of the things that you said, I resonated with so deeply. So when I hear you speak, especially when you were talking about some of the conversations that you had with guys that knew for a fact they would never walk the streets again, it reminds me. So you and I both were in the military. We both were in prison. And I can tell by hearing you speak that you feel a weight of responsibility. And bro, every time somebody says, and no knock to the people that say things like this, they don't know any better. When they tell me like that they appreciate my service, all I can think about is the people that didn't make it home when we were in Iraq. And
Yeah,
then I got out of prison May 28th, 2022. And by the grace of God, like he's put people in my path and he's given me the strength and the vision and the direction to be walking this road. But when I encounter people and they're like, "Oh man, you've been doing so good. You ain't been home so long." I
Yeah.
think about them guys because I had the same types of conversations, and these were young guys with life. Like I'm
Right.
talking about
Yeah.
mid 20s with life, and it gives me chills right now saying it. Like I got a couple of guys in my mind right now. Like one guy, shout out to him. His name is Wilford Shelley. He got 2 life sentences in North Carolina. He was a canteen operator. I became a canteen operator, and he pulled me to the side and he was like, "Look, bro, when you get out, don't look back.
It's
There's
real,
people
man.
in here that ain't never getting out. You have a chance to make something of yourself." Man, that dude gave me so much wisdom, so much game. And I think about him all the time. Bro, it is so that responsibility, like it's deep, bro.
Yeah, it's heavy, man. That's how I ended up on the internet. I never
Really.
I never ever intended on doing any posts. I was like the anti-internet guy, social media.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was the guy that said I ain't gonna have no phone like that. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Like I said that before I came
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Um, but my brother Jefferson Ellie, who's somebody that made sure he was a big brother to me while I was incarcerated, we did a post for him, and we started to tell his story on Facebook. I knew nothing about social media, but I felt
Yeah.
obligated
Yeah.
because that's somebody I told before I came home that I was gonna help get out. And we got 180,000 signatures in support of his release.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
the first
incredible.
yeah, and that's what started it. But my obligation to my brothers, my sisters, the juveniles, whether I know them or not, but just
Right.
knowing what the system really is
Right.
what calls me to wake up every morning early
Right.
and stay up to really late at night and do the work. Yeah,
Right. And that's another thing that's important in my opinion is as we walk this road to understand what we're facing. So one of the challenges, and I know that you encounter this when you help individuals coming home from prison all the time, is the prison is built exactly the opposite of the free world. In
yeah,
prison, they do everything for you. They take away your individuality, they take away your autonomy, and then you do 6, 7, 12, 20 years in prison, and you come home, and now you got to be on time, independent, take initiative. Like I remember I was having a conversation earlier today about some of the blind spots that I had when I got out of prison. Before I got out, I made a list of all the things that I needed, including when I thought I was getting my own apartment, that I needed all these things. Bro, simple things like toilet paper or paper towel holders and dish towels. It never crossed my mind.
yep,
And I still today, I've been out almost 3 years. I still today struggle with making sure that I'm on time whenever I have to commute because I'm thinking, oh, I got plenty of time. Then next thing I know, I punch it in my GPS and I'm gonna be 10 minutes late. So that's another thing that's important for the individuals that may be watching this or who have family members that are inside to let them know like like you said, be authentic. If it don't feel right, don't do it. And I don't mean, for those that are watching, I don't mean like only do what feels right, because growth is
right,
uncomfortable a lot of times. But if
yes,
you're talking about doing something, if you start doing something and then something tells you like this ain't a good idea, listen to it, because the night that I got myself in trouble, something told me don't go. I still went.
always.
Always, bro. So when you say you got out at 17 years instead of 20, walk me through the emotional and intellectual wrestling match that you went through, and what did you think your life would look like when you got out?
I remember. So I got married before I came home. Me and my
Congratulations.
wife. Yeah, thank you. We just celebrated 5 years.
That's what's
A lot
up.
of yeah, a lot of the homies from Virginia drove down to Georgia. My side of the was all the
That's
one
what's
of my homies,
up.
like he told my wife, "Yo, if anything happens, call me." It was love, right?
Hey, that's what's up.
Yeah, but man, I did 16 years, 11 months, and the
Mm.
timestamp, February 12th, 2003.
Mhm.
I had hair, wavy curls. I was fly, right? They had the Nextel chirps, the yellow joints.
Hey.
If you don't remember that, that's what's up. You got plenty of road ahead of you.
Right.
Smartphones didn't exist. Nobody even text. Facebook wasn't a thing. And then I came home January 13th, 2020, 16 years, 11 months to the day.
Yeah.
2 months before the pandemic. Now everything's social media. Everybody walks around like this in their phones. Cars drive by themselves. You fill out applications online.
You can't get a real person on the phone anymore.
Can't get a real person on the phone. So I was dealing with technology. I was dealing with societal shifts with the pandemic. The PO's telling me I need a job. They're shutting everything down.
Yeah.
There's no mental health resources. I come home with a severe amount of trauma because, as I continue to say through this interview and everywhere else, I was never no super. But listen, in there, you do things to survive. You experience things. You see things. And you often don't know how much the trauma has impacted you until you're outside of the environment. It's just like practicing your football. You take the pads off 2 days later. You're like, yo, what the heck was that?
Yeah, you can't move your shoulder. Yeah.
Your shoulder, and that's what happened. I remember telling my wife prior to me coming home, I got that. Life is easy. Prison is hard. And I'm coming home with a wife. I got a mortgage, which means we got a home. Totally different situation, right? Than so many of my brothers and sisters that are coming home, and it's way harder. But mentally, I was messed up. So I spend a lot of my time talking about mental health for those that are coming home from incarceration. And then also I'm somebody that's in recovery. I work in recovery right now, but I came straight home and the first thing I wanted to do was run to the bottle and start partying. So, year one was volatile, man.
Yeah.
There was plenty of traps that I was setting for myself. And it was just, and I look back and it was grace. It was the grace. I'm not here to push none of what people believe, but I'm gonna say what got me through. Because easily I could have went back. As much as I'm telling this story about somebody that learned to be a good person in prison and help people, when I came home, I had to reset, readjust, and sort of start to work all over again because now we're in a new environment.
That's a fact.
So
that's a fact. And I want to touch on a couple of things because you're right. Nobody goes through any experience like that or any really traumatizing experience and comes out unscathed. Even if they present well, even if they can talk a good game, when they're alone with their thoughts and those thoughts just come up, then it's a battle. So I know personally, I'm from the Virgin Islands. Like my family is Black, Latino. A lot of times we don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about it. And we were raised not to talk about it. So question one, how did you break through the stigma? And question two, how did you find recovery? Because one of the things that I think is often overlooked when talking about recovery is when someone is in recovery, now you're living according to principles. And I think that is so powerful because if you're not living according to morals and principles, then what's your compass for right or wrong? Like, how do you calibrate your decision making?
Right. Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to say is sometimes when people hear recovery, we're not just talking about recovering from a substance.
Right.
You're recovering from a mindset. You run into the substance, if we're speaking in terms of that, is based off the trauma you experience. And a lot of us are self-medicating, a lot of us are doing things. But as far as stigma and me saying I'm gonna go get help, I wanted to live. I remember in 2021, I went in our bedroom, or our master bedroom, and I sat down. I wrote 2 letters out because I was tired, right? And I was ready to say goodbye. And to anybody that's watching this, if you're there, I know what you're feeling. I may not know everything you've experienced, but I know what it means to be on the brink. And divine intervention, whatever, my mother called, and I thank God for that. And he got my attention long enough. And then my wife came home, and I broke down, and I just let it out, and I said, I need help.
Right.
And what happened to me was I broke. I got to the point where, as a man, I would be sitting on the couch watching TV, and my mind was racing so
Right.
much, and I didn't know how to slow it down. And for anybody that's never dealt with mental illness and thinks that it's just some terms, and anxiety is just something, because so many people do throw it around, it's
Right.
very real, and you can't
100%.
escape your mind. You know,
100%.
yeah, and no matter what, through it all, even if I was crazy back then, another thing that I've always been was a survivor.
Hey, let's
And
go.
yeah, so even in my the moment where I almost let go of the edge, and I did need somebody to bring me back,
Right.
that's all I needed. And then I decided I'm never going there again, you know?
Right.
And the truth of the
Absolutely.
matter is, life hasn't necessarily got easier.
Mhm.
But the way I see the world and the way I respond versus react, and the tools that I have now, because I'm in recovery and I've got help,
Right.
they allow me to move forward.
Yeah, that's powerful, bro. And I think similar to you, I've been there where I was ready to just I for a long time I thought it was up to me to handle everything, to take care of everything, to do everything, to be everyone to everyone that needed something. And it got to the
Yeah,
point that I could not take it anymore, and I really had to surrender. I had to take my hands off the steering wheel and be like,
yeah,
I am not in control. I cannot do this. And I had to get help. And I believe these are some of the things I believe. We need community, a
yeah.
supportive, encouraging community, and we need behavioral health resources like therapy. I got two therapists.
Hmm.
So I believe in both. Like I don't think it's either or. So shout out to you for recognizing that and being man enough to say I need help. Because
Yeah,
too often in our communities, we're told if you need help, you're not a man.
yeah.
Um,
Especially
and
certain communities. Yeah,
a
yeah,
100%, 100%. And I think we know that the military has a super high rate of individuals ending it or individuals checking out.
yeah.
I wonder what the number would be for individuals who have been in the military and in prison, because those two are two traumatic beasts.
Yeah. Well, there's so many veterans that are incarcerated that in a lot of prisons they have their own dorms. So
Oh,
like I'm
wow.
getting ready to go up to Maine
Mhm.
and speak to a whole housing unit full of veterans. And this is all
Wow.
where I was in Commonwealth of Virginia. They had
Mhm.
veterans dorms on certain facilities. They had veterans boards where they would have representatives come in from out of the street and do things.
Mhm.
But it's a big population. But I also want to say, just because you touched on it, that in 2025 alone, we're already breaking records when it comes to people that are unaliving themselves, especially around amongst men, Black and Hispanic.
Right.
Incarcerated individuals, are veterans, and people that are dealing with addictions. But the numbers are off the Richter, and we're only what, first quarter 2025 right now.
That's it. Just first quarter. Man, I didn't realize that we were headed in that, or that trajectory was happening right now.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's so important. If anybody watching this feels like things are getting too heavy, reach out for help. If you don't feel like anybody near you is supportive, then call the hotline 611, reach out for help. Please, we need you in this world.
100%.
So when you go speak,
Hmm.
and I know you speak a lot to young people, to people who are still behind the wall, what are some of the most important lessons, and how has your story been received?
So I'm grateful um, for a 41-year-old guy that can get up here on social media and play different characters, do skits, also speak, do a bunch of different things to bring awareness. I
Right.
um I get good response there, and it carries over physically when I'm in those physical environments, when I walk into those rooms.
Hmm.
But every now and then, you do
Uh-oh.
have one or two individuals that they think it's a joke,
Right.
and when I walk into a room, those are the individuals that I give all my attention to. Because if you already and that's how I do on the internet. You troll me, I troll you back, because come on, but I always look for the individuals that don't get it, that
Mhm.
think it's a game, but I never come, I just come at them with love and brotherhood, and real conversation. And I can tell a quick story. I went to a prison where I did 6 years, St. Bride's Correctional Center. And I was supposed to be going. They told me, come out here. I flew up there to VA. I was supposed to be doing a thing for recovery, because it was recovery
Right.
awareness, all this good stuff. And right before I walk in the visitation room, the unit manager that knows me, he says, I got every gang member off the compound in here. And I told them, if they don't come in here for this seminar, we're going to give them a charge.
Oh my goodness.
And I walk into the V, and fortunately, some of the guys knew me, but everybody didn't, right?
Mhm.
And they were angry. And the guy, he's like, you can go ahead, get started. All we ask, be shaking nobody's hands, because we know certain guys know you. And before I said one word, I walked to every man in that room and I shook their hand, you know, right?
That's what's
So,
up. That's what's
yeah,
up.
but I do that, and I'm just saying, like, I speak about a lot of different things, but the first thing, I just want to show them what respect looks like from the
Facts.
outside in, because I
Facts.
remember when somebody came from off the street and came and looked me in my eyes as a man, and spoke to me and gave me some good information.
Facts.
Um, I'm always talking about coping skills, curriculums, effective
Mhm.
communication, conflict resolution, financial literacy, the things that's going to help us move forward. And then,
Right.
of course, I'm also giving some life lessons, because I
Facts.
learned plenty of hard ones.
Right. So real quick, I misspoke earlier. The suicide prevention hotline is 988. I don't know where the hell I got 611 from. So I gotta clarify that. But I believe, because right now my focus when I'm working with individuals getting out of prison is workforce development, and the soft skills will take you a whole lot farther. Don't get me wrong, no shade or shot against like degrees, diplomas, but
Mm-hmm.
we know that nowadays lived experience and technical skills and interpersonal skills are they're just as important, if not more important.
Yeah.
Case in point, when I got out, I didn't have anything more than, I mean, I took all the classes I could in prison, but strangely enough, in North Carolina, people with a B1, which is the charge that I had, could not take certain degree courses. However, all other charge classifications could. So the only thing that I had developed is some soft skills, being able to read the room, being able to take the temperature and know like, is it gonna be all right, or am I gonna have to like mitigate some shit, or just get
Right.
away? Like, what am I
Right.
gonna have to do? And the ability to listen, to understand, as opposed to listening to reply, and the ability to take what was in here and break it down, dumb it down in order to have it received by the youngest possible audience. And honestly, bro, like that has taken me much farther than I think a degree would have taken me if I would have gotten a degree and been um like a robot without any kind of interpersonal skills. Um, what is your favorite age range to work with?
Probably. I mean, I don't necessarily have a favorite, but I'm always trying to get to our younger people. But definitely, I live in Atlanta, right? And then I
Yeah,
work out of Los Angeles. So,
that's a
man,
lot of
that
traveling.
yeah. But like, it is, and I thank God for it. It's a lot of
Right,
work too.
right.
But like 12 to 19, that's a very
Yeah,
volatile window.
right.
Nowadays we're seeing these young people, they're picking up firearms and they're doing whatever they're doing at a very early age.
Yeah,
Um, and if we can get to them, we're gonna go to them,
facts,
and so that would
facts.
be probably my, again, I don't want to say favorite, because I work with older people that are
Right.
dealing with addictions. I work with women, I work with children, I work with men, but yeah, man, our young people, especially in that age, especially our black and brown, our people, man, we're checking out quick. We're falling
Yeah,
victim to the trend. Yeah.
facts. And I can definitely see the importance of that. There's an old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it seems like the school to prison pipeline is a real thing. And like people, we can get deep in that about like the parallels, like the prison bus looks like the school bus, the chow hall looks like the cafeteria, et cetera, et cetera. There's something to be said about individuals in that age range, 12 to 19-year-olds, who are held to the same standard as adults who, in an ideal world, would be able to regulate their emotions better, who would be able to step away when they need to, who would be able to process and understand a situation for what it is. But the reality is, the individuals in that age range, the children in that age range, the things that a lot of times get labeled as bad behavior or rebellion, it's really just stress at home because either they don't feel safe at home, they haven't slept, they haven't eaten. And to me, I hope that we continue to see more of adults who are supposed to be able to understand what we see in front of us. I hope that we continue to see adults being more understanding and more inquisitive, more curious about, well, come talk to me. Tell me what you got going on. Like, why are you acting out in class? As opposed to get out my classroom, go to the principal's office, because that doesn't help anything. And you and I both know that trauma breeds trauma. Hurt people, and all the other cliches that we can come up with for this. The reality is, if we don't process our trauma and we don't learn from our own experience, then how are we ever going to slow down the rate at which we're losing our young people to the system and just losing them in general? So I really appreciate the work that you do. And I really, really, really appreciate how outspoken you are about all of this. So I just got a couple more questions.
For sure.
Out of the entire prison, or before prison, during prison, post prison, if you had to deliver three key things to somebody who feels like they're defeated, whether they've been in the system or whether they haven't, what would they be?
Oh man, first and foremost is if you want your situation to change, just apply consistency and discipline. That's it.
Facts.
I promise you.
Facts.
I've only been home 5.5 years. Founded a
You killing it.
yeah, and again, man, it's not because I'm smarter or brighter. It's just I'm consistent and disciplined. Every
Right.
day I wake up and I apply some type of physical work to my dreams. And
Right.
I've been able to open up vocational schools and start nonprofits and
That's what's
been on,
up.
all this stuff. But that's the first thing, right?
Okay.
Be consistent and disciplined. The next thing is get into new rooms and have new conversations.
Right.
Like a lot
That's
of
deep.
times our situation stays the same because we don't ever leave the environment, the room, the conversations. And
Right.
when you get into new rooms, you have new conversations, positive spaces,
Right.
places where you can grow, have positive experiences, and you show up,
Right.
you'll get opportunities to grow.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and it's real. And the next thing is the last piece I would just say is um, whether it's through society or certain systems, the world can have you thinking that your life is automatically supposed to be a certain way. Um, and that's the farthest thing from the lie. You have the ability, especially now more than ever, to get on here, on the internet, whatever, and just create with your mind.
Right.
The soft skills, the intangible, the ability to tell a story, the ability to connect, um, enables me to do everything. I've got a GED.
So,
Some
and look
college,
at you, 20 million a month.
right? And I said I got some college credits, and
Yeah.
I got principal of the year,
Yeah.
right?
That's what's
Like
up.
it's great. Like that doesn't make sense. That's the point. And if anybody doesn't believe, Google my name and Last and Layers of Beauty, and you see it. But
Yeah.
be bold enough to know that that's the truth. That you can do whatever you really want to apply yourself to,
Yeah.
and do it. Do the work, man. I
That's deep.
promise you, your life can be different.
That's deep. I love that. I love those three. And I'm definitely going to remember that. Also, I think that nowadays AI is leveling the playing field. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm I consider myself an eternal student. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that anybody that I come in contact with can teach me something if I'm looking to learn any situation, whether it's a storm that I'm facing, if I'm open to a lesson, then the lesson's there. And honestly, you know what I've been doing lately? I've been talking to AI. I've been talking to ChatGPT. Like, I asked it to mentor me about business. I asked it to teach me about this. It'll come up with anything that you want to learn. It'll come up with it. So I definitely agree. Nowadays, anything that you want to do can be done exactly the way you said it. Be consistent, show up, do the work. be disciplined, be coachable, and then don't limit your belief. I believe that no matter what we want to accomplish in life, it's going to rise or fall to the level of our not only consistency and discipline, but our personal development. Because if I'm continuing to learn, then how can I lose?
You can't. And then like, if I would add the fourth is, if you just
Uh-huh.
work on being the best you can be,
Yeah.
like, good things happen. Like if you just
Right.
really just work on you, you don't have to work on anything but you,
Right.
and doors will open. I promise you, man. But that, yeah,
Right.
I feel 100%.
One last question.
Mhm.
What's next?
Man, I got a bunch of stuff getting ready to do. And get ready to do. I guess like I don't even know where to and I'm grateful. I promise you, y'all see me. I'm just excited. I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to be here. I got
Facts.
sentenced to 144 years, so I get to wake up
Facts.
and live life and create and do all these things. But what's next is we're getting ready to do a play all the way out there in Colorado Springs. Shout out to Men of Influence.
Yeah.
We got a conference in Houston. I say we, by the way, because anybody that supports my content, like, y'all are the ones that's allowing me and helping me get into these spaces. I can't be heard
Mm.
if you guys don't like and share and
Yeah,
support.
that's deep. That's
Um,
deep.
yeah. And then what else we got? We got a man. I'm getting a proclamation on the 26th. I get a day.
Man, congratulations.
Hey, yeah. Shout out to Mayor Kobe out there in South Fulton, the blackest city in America. Um, and man, I'm just doing work, man. I'm getting ready
What's
to
your
launch it.
day? What's your
Oh,
day gonna be?
June 23rd, my birthday.
June 23rd. That's
Yeah,
what's up. That's what's
yeah, yeah,
up.
yeah. I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of stuff. Just follow me, man. Check me out. Anybody that's watching this, um, I'm also on the move constantly. I'm getting ready to go to Maine. I'm getting ready to go to Houston. I'm getting ready to go to a bunch of different places. My
Yeah.
flights have been sponsored and covered for the next year. So anybody that's
Damn, that's what's up.
I tell everybody, listen, anybody that's watching this,
Hmm.
if you will be so kind to allow me into your establishment, your prison, your center,
Hmm.
your whatever, jail,
Hmm.
school, I'll
Hmm.
pull up. I will
Yeah.
pull up. I'll book the flight. I'll come out there, I'll fly in, and then I'll fly out. I
Yeah.
just want to come out there and help. And I don't
Right.
care what the globe, because I got my passport, even though
Hey,
fellas
let's
can't.
go. Let's
Right?
go.
Grateful, man.
Let everybody know where they can find you. I mean, we're gonna put it in the description and the chat too, but let them know.
Yeah, look, I tell everybody this because there was a time when you Google my name, not so good things came up. Just Google
Facts.
my name, Christopher Willars. Everything will come up. You'll be able to find my social media, the news articles. You'll be able to see work about my nonprofit, the
Yeah.
Life Unit Inc. Or all my social medias are Christopher Life Willars. I'm pretty good at interacting with messages. So if you
Yeah.
guys reach out, I definitely love to connect. I am a creator that actually supports the people that supports him to the best of my ability, man.
That's a
So
fact.
I would love to connect with you guys and support y'all back.
Yeah.
Let's go, man. Yeah.
That's a fact. We on this show because you responded.
Yeah, I
So
tried, man. Some people get
yeah.
mad. I'm like, yo, it's one of
Hey, look,
the
if they get mad, they ain't busy enough. They
right.
ain't got
Hey,
enough
look,
going on.
certain people they like, oh, I already know, bro, disappeared. He
Yeah, okay.
doing this,
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yo, I try my hardest, man, and I want to shout out to. I want to say thank you to not just the people that support my content and support the message, but anybody that fights for me and advocates for me to get into spaces, because I always got
deep.
people reaching out, just presenting really dope opportunities, and
Yeah,
not that pouring into me, praying. I got people that pray for me and that are
yeah.
teaching me and mentoring me. So I don't want people to think that I'm
Facts.
up here in my mouth. Like I got support. I go to therapy tomorrow. Like my brother said, I ain't got two, but I got one. Yo,
I'm a little
so
throwed. I need some extra. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
right. I need to double up. You gave me an idea, one
Hey, I
for
need
each
some extra.
hemisphere of the brain or whatever. Right.
For real,
Yo,
man. Hey, look, for real, bro. I really do appreciate you, and I admire the work that you do, and you inspire a bunch of us. And like, I can't wait to continue watching the journey. I can't wait to see the impact, and hopefully, we can not only support the individuals coming out, but hopefully, we can continue to educate the people who never been in the system about the realities of the system and keep the kids out the system, man. So any way that I can support anything you got going on, you know I'm gonna keep blasting the content, bro. I
For sure.
appreciate
Like,
you, bro.
I
Thank you for
really do.
hopping on the show.
Yeah, hey, you a dope conversationalist, man. Real talk, man. I want to see the podcast blow up and do good things. But hey, I might need to message you after this because I've been brainstorming on some
Let's
live
go.
streams. I like the flow of the
I'm
conversation, man.
Hey, listen, I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? I might be a little slow to respond sometimes, but I'll be doing my best to be on it. I'm with
I
it.
already I know everybody's working and moving, but I'm serious, man. I love the
Okay.
conversation. I love the
Yeah.
platform, and to see
Thank
you
you.
come home after you did your time, man. I want to take
Thank
the
you.
time to give you your flowers and show you respect, bro. You're a positive force out here, man. You know what I'm
Thank you,
saying? And
bro.
keep doing that. Anybody, man, support this platform. Y'all support me, support this brother, man. Seriously.
Yeah, let's go. Everybody subscribe, support, repost. Let's go. Hey,
Yeah, let's
it's
get it.
been a pleasure, bro. All right,
Thank you,
peace.
brother. I appreciate it. You have a good one.